Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch Track Podcast presented by the Dude and Grim Show. I'm the Dude.
And I'm Grim, and today we are going to be talking about the album Vitalogy by Pearl Jam.
Ooh, yeah, Pearl Jam. Nice. Well, before we get started, we should definitely want to wish everyone a very, very Merry Christmas from the Dude and Grim Show.
Yeah.
We do.
Respectively.
Yes, we do. And, you know, you could do us a Christmas solid, too, by...
Like, subscribe, and comment below.
Hit the button. I noticed the button's up now.
Hit it.
And that's nice.
Button's been up.
Oh, well, I noticed it.
It's a bigger button this time.
It is a bigger button.
It's right down. It's either down there in this corner or down there in this corner.
But
it's on your side. It's on your side.
It is.
So it's on Grim's side. Hit the button. Okay, we got to get into it now. But Pearl Jam's Vitalogy. Now, this is their third studio album, released November 22nd, 1994. Originally, it was titled Life. I thought that's kind of trippy.
Well, yeah, and that goes with the meaning of Vitalogy, I guess, which, according to what I found, was a book that I believe Vedder found at like a garage sale that was like some kind of, it seems to me like it was some weird sort of unofficial kind of medical-ish book from a long time ago, and I guess that Vitalogy means the study of life.
Yeah, I think it was sort of, they said it was more like outdated discussions on like health and well-being. Yeah. So I can only imagine the advice that was given back then.
Dude, I will say, even in just some of the stuff that is in the liner notes, it is outdated. Let's see here. The first thing one of the first things I see, it says, life prolonged indefinitely. We know little of the life of early mankind, but we are reasonably sure that some lived to be 500 and up to 900 years of age. So my guess
quite a range.
My guess is early mankind probably didn't even make it into the 60s. I mean, when you think about it.
I mean, dude, Jesus only lived to like 33.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I guess his wasn't natural causes either. So,
yeah. But there's a lot of, with that, there's a lot of just little snippets from the book in the liner notes, which makes it some pretty interesting liner notes to look through. And especially on Spin the Black Circle, there's this little emblem that says a CD is like bad acid, not for production or consumption, which is kind of funny.
All right. I can do that.
But I'd rather enjoy consuming this, even though I only have it on CD format. Was going to get it on vinyl at the record store a few weeks ago, but it is not an inexpensive record to purchase.
Well, dude, I find it interesting that when this album came out, it actually was released on vinyl 2 weeks before they put it out on CD and cassette. And I guarantee you it didn't cost $65 when it came out. I just have like a
you got to
feeling
adjust for inflation. I mean,
of course. Saying. Yeah. And
but
for,
it's interesting though,
like
because they did that. And I didn't realize there was such a push for vinyl even at that time, but they said that it sold 34,000 copies in its first week. And until Jack White released Lazaretto in 2014, it was like the biggest initial sales
selling.
Yeah, in a vinyl release
record. Which I think they also said though, since they'd been tracking since
sales
like 1991.
In 91. Yeah.
So yeah.
But either way, I mean that's interesting. It's amazing that record held that long, because I feel like the vinyl boom had already happened by the time Lazaretto came out, and it's surprising that something didn't hit it first.
Yeah.
But
no, I could definitely see it.
Although Lazaretto is a sweet album.
Oh, yeah. Well, so it's kind of interesting. One produced by Brendan O'Brien, which is, he is a favorite producer of ours. He, was he helped engineer Blood Sugar Sex Magic. He has
played
produced,
instruments
obviously,
on it,
a lot of Pearl Jam, produced a lot of Stone Temple Pilots. So we're familiar with his work. And he puts a great product out there for sure and works with the bands. I think he gets the best out of them. So, but this is actually Dave Abbruzese's last album. It's kind of funny. He put all the tracks down and before the recording was finished, he put like all of his tracks down, and then he kind of got fired, or they pushed him out of the band because I guess he was having conflicts with people, bad communication. It seemed like this is a very chaotic time for them, because they were coming. I mean, 10 obviously was huge, right?
And so was Versus.
And so was Versus.
Yeah.
But in a lot of bands back then, Nirvana, of that era and genre too, they blew up and they struggled a lot with just kind of the fame and being number one and being on tour and kind of being sort of maybe under the thumb a little bit. Obviously, we know a little bit about their beef with Ticketmaster and the record companies. And so there's a lot of pressures and stresses they were dealing with. And, Mike McCready was like, he went into rehab for alcohol and cocaine. I mean, it was your typical rock Hollywood story kind of.
Well,
in the making,
and
right?
one thing too that should be noted is Stone Gossard, the guitarist. I guess I read that he was more or less like the de facto kind of leader of the band. I think him and like Jeff Ament were like, that was kind of their idea when they started Pearl Jam. But as this album was coming out, it was really clear that like Eddie Vedder had a lot of artistic vision and kind of, I don't want to say like asserted himself, because watching PJ20, I mean, I don't sense that there's like bad blood there. And obviously they're still a band, even though they went through struggles. But it sounded like it was just sort of this natural shift. And it wasn't like Stone Gossard's baby anymore, so to speak. They all kind of were contributing more, and Vedder was getting a louder voice. And so I read that Stone Gossard stopped acting as the band's mediator. And once that happened, like the communication with Abbruzzese like really fell off.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of do maybe need somebody to make the peace a little bit here and there, because I mean, dude, if you've been a band or even just you have a solid group of friends, and after a while, you have ups and downs and friendships and whatnot.
It's like there's gonna be two at either side that kind of butt heads, right? I mean, it's just kind of natural,
pretty much. And I think, especially with Eddie Vedder, I mean, this happens with a lot of frontmen who are like good looking frontmen, right? And they get a lot of the credit. They're the ones who people really want to have access to and want to interview. And so
they're the voice.
Maybe,
I hate to say it. They're the voice. That's, and so many people relate that so directly.
They do. And I guess, and maybe or some other fans out there, if you guys know with 10 and with Versus, it sounded like, Stone Gossard not only was like kind of the leader, but other members were more the creative forces. I mean, I think Eddie Vedder, I'm sure, came up with a lot of the lyrics and words and everything. But on this album, Eddie Vedder, I think, 3, 4, 5 of the songs are like, quote unquote, like his songs. And he kind of, put them together and played on guitar, and they were just like more his songs. And they said this is the album that he kind of really came out of his shell and really started writing, I think, more from a musical perspective. Is that kind of your understanding?
That was how I interpreted it as well. I mean, but yeah, once you got a guy who's just a singer and now he starts playing guitar, I think that's great. Just because it's just another element of creativity that maybe you didn't have before, but I can see how it could shake things up a bit. And especially if it's already kind of, I don't want to say rocky, but maybe there's some tense bits to it, right?
Yeah, I mean, they have, again, like they wrote most of this album when they were touring for Versus. Not only wrote, but wrote and recorded. Mm-hmm. And it sounded like a lot of it was sort of kind of last minute things here. I don't know how true it is, but I think I saw a quote there by Eddie Vedder where he said, or somebody said, where like 80% of the songs were written within 20 minutes, like before they were recorded. It's almost like, hey, we're gonna go into the studio, or a lot of this stuff was done during sound check. They were kind of working stuff out. I forget what song it is. We'll get to it when we start getting into the tracks, but like Eddie Vedder, for maybe it was Not For You or something, he wrote the lyrics in, I think, like an hour. And he was like, for me, that's just like the best way to do it. You just like sitting down in one like, session and just spit it out. He's like, it has just such a good vibe when you do that. So, yeah. But even going back to, Eddie Vedder and everything, he, again, being the front man and people want to have access to him. Mike McCready said that, one thing that Eddie Vedder struggled with was like, they felt like, even not just him, but the band too, they didn't have as much control, right? They you got the record companies, you got Ticketmaster, you have all these demands and stuff you got to meet. And then I think that's what Eddie Vedder did. And he started writing a lot of songs because the one thing he did have control over was making his music, right? Like he can do what he wanted to do.
Well, and it's interesting because I feel like with this, I got the sense that they weren't trying to make the next album that was going to be the biggest thing. They just it was almost like they wanted to do something more for them. And so, of course, it's kind of billed as the band's most experimental album to date, which I mean, truly is when you listen to it. That's what I always liked about it, is that it is just like they weren't afraid to get weird.
Yeah, I think for me, I'll fully admit, I always gravitated more towards, I think, Soundgarden and Nirvana and STP. I've always liked Pearl Jam, but I'd never gotten too deeply into their albums. I mean, dude, you turn on classic radio and you hear half of 10, like every day.
I know. And that's why, and I'm sure I'll get crucified by super fans for this, but dude, 10 is by no means my favorite album of theirs. In fact, I don't even listen to it.
No,
great album, a great debut album, for God's sakes. But
unbelievable.
It's just not my thing, really, because of what you just said. I mean, that's the reason. Is just it's just so out. It's so in your face and out there in the media, and that's not their fault. I mean,
I mean, dude, that's the thing though. Like that's what kind of sold and blew them up and everything. And again, when we get into the tracks a little bit, when they were recording this album and they started playing Better Man in the studio, and Brendan O'Brien was like, "Oh, that's going to be a hit," and they were like, "Okay, we don't want to do it."
Yeah, and
they had that opposite reaction.
Yeah,
to it.
And I thought that I heard somewhere that they actually had recorded a version of that song like before and scrapped it. And What's on Vitalogy is like the second pass at it.
I think they actually tried it a couple of times. And we'll talk a little bit. I have some info on it. We'll talk a little more once we get into that track. But it sounded like, they wanted to do this album for them. And when you listen to it, it's kind of a weird album. There's some strange songs on it, but there's some really good like rock songs. It's kind of, I don't know if I'd say it's all over the place, but like you said, they're kind of most experimental album at least from what I've heard. I fully admit I have not listened to a lot of the recent stuff that has come out. So if people have ideas or thoughts on, how you compare their newer stuff to some of the older stuff, I'd love to hear that.
I think as it goes on, like if you talk about like No Code and Yield and stuff, like they haven't been afraid of further experimentation.
Yeah.
But this was like laying the groundwork for everything they would, do as far as like branching out, I felt like.
Yeah.
But
well, it's they definitely branched out for sure. This album, it does, they've never shied away from political stances by
no, when we saw him live at Lollapalooza, he was talking about BP, which was right. There was a BP like refinery or something right down in northern Indiana, I guess. So he was, he made a point about just you have a choice of where you buy your gasoline, and maybe this isn't where you want to get it from. And I don't know, was that in with the Deepwater Horizon thing? Is that why that was?
I don't know. That's probably about that time.
It seems like it.
From what I remember, I think.
And again, super fans will kill. That's the only time I've seen them live, but I thought it was a great show.
Yeah, absolutely. And they don't shy away from, publicity or, being controversial. Like during this time is when they had their big beef with Ticketmaster, and dude, they went in front of,
a Senate committee.
A Senate committee. It was Stone Gossard and I forget the other guy who was there, but I think they have footage of it in PJ 20. And I thought, Which is, we should tell people if you haven't seen the documentary. I actually bought it a while ago. How did you see it? Is it on Amazon or did you just rent it or what'd you do?
I could swear it was on Netflix at one point, and I watched the whole thing then. All right. And then I just kind of had to find it online now because I wanted to kind of revisit like this period and do my homework.
Is this your homework, Larry? So that's a really good kind of documentary. Just kind of, I mean, PJ20, it does kind of span their whole career.
Oh yeah.
And I believe Cameron Crowe directed it.
I think that's
he put it together because he's followed them for a long time when, just from, I don't know if he was still at Rolling Stone when they started. I don't know Cameron Crowe's full career, but I'm sure he's always been involved in music and stuff like that.
The Ticketmaster thing's interesting because I think with that came the idea that they were not going to play in these venues that were like controlled by Ticketmaster and their circle of promoters. So when they went on this tour in 95, I get, or 94, 95, that span, they're basically like kind of building their shows from the ground up and trying to do everything themselves. And man, that must have been a hell of an undertaking.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially back then. And it's weird, man. I understand what they were trying to do. I find it interesting that no other bands joined them like in the cause. It's fighting and they did, for all intents and purposes, have a monopoly on it. And I mean, I
feel like they still do, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, there's
maybe yes and
like
no.
AXS or
there's all I know is tickets are really goddamn expensive still.
Really expensive. Yeah. Well, even when they're talking about, I think in the Senate hearing, they're talking about it's costing like $30 for tickets and stuff. Like, dude, I'd gladly pay $30 for a ticket now.
Well, yeah, but again, inflation,
man. So yeah, they fought the good fight. It didn't really last long. I mean, I don't know. I imagine they're selling tickets through Ticketmaster and these shows and tours that they go on now. I mean, they're not happy about it, but I imagine they do or are. I don't know if other people know. I mean, I imagine we got our Lollapalooza tickets through Ticketmaster, right?
I don't know. Who knows? But
anyways,
enough of Ticketmaster. I like the kind of the joining forces at this point in their career too, with Neil Young. Because they did that version of Keep on Rocking in the Free World with them, and then apparently they did this show at Golden Gate Park, and Vedder got food poisoning and could only make it through a handful of songs, and Neil Young finished out the concert with him.
Came out.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it sounds like they had a kind of a bond with him, and I think he probably helped him through, him and them through some of the fame and kind of navigating that a lot like. I would say, Michael Stipe and REM did with Radiohead. They were very close, and they helped them through, once Radiohead really started blowing up. I know Michael Stipe and Tom York are pretty close. So
that's cool.
Yeah. Well, Grim, should we quit rambling here and get into some of the tracks, my friend?
Yes, we should.
All right. Let's do it, boy. Number one.
Last Exit.
I like this. First of all, I love the title because I love that it's the first song. Because just when I started thinking of it and realizing what this album was about, it's almost like, hey, all right, if you want off, like you better get off now. Otherwise, dude,
it's gonna be a different ride.
Dude, buy the ticket, take the ride. So it's good.
I was just gonna say I've always liked the song to start the album. It really kind of kicks it into high gear, and I think it's kind of, I feel like this song was not too much of a departure from kind of where they had started to go. But for some reason, I really like the fact that the last words in the song, which is Last Exit, he just speaks them very calmly.
Yeah.
Because he's like, this is my last exit.
Yep.
I've always liked that.
It is a funny way to end it. And I kind of think that this, again, this song and this album has a lot of themes to it about kind of the industry and becoming famous, having to deal with that. A lot of a big theme also is privacy and just kind of having that not having it. But some of the words here too are I think the lyrics, let the sunshine burn away my mask, 3 days and maybe longer, shed my skin at last. It's kind of like, I don't know if that's necessarily kind of about like him changing and evolving, or maybe the perception of him that other people have, that kind of changes and evolves. But it's definitely, it definitely has something to do with, I think, his perception, his identity, and kind of getting rid of those things. Because, if you are going to, bottom line is, if you are going to be this famous musician, it's, first of all, it's not for everybody, and it's not easy to take. I know everybody thinks it's this glamorous lifestyle, which there's a lot of that, but it happens to some artists and it happens really fast. And it's like, again, like a ride you kind of can't get off of. And, I think it changes who you are and changes people's perception of you. And, some artists definitely lose themselves in it. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. But it should be noted that I, despite the fact that it, of course, because again, the frontman Vedder being the singer, maybe he did write the lyrics. I guess the music is credited to Stone Gossard, not necessarily the lyrics.
Yeah. I think he does write most of the lyrics.
What's the bit about? What's the line? If you got the lyrics up, what's the line about under my tongue?
Oh, there's a tab under my tongue or something like that. I think. Yeah.
I can give you what you're not supposed to have or something like that.
No, under your tongue, I'm like a tab.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I will give you what you want. You're not supposed to have. Yeah, but it goes on. We could.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, track number 2, dude. Spin back the circle, dude. It's about
Spin
vinyl.
the black circle.
The black circle. Sorry.
Yeah. It is. And I remember being exposed to this song when I was younger, because, of course, making a sweet skateboarding video with Joe Boo, and he really liked this song and put it on there. And just the title at that age, I thought it was like about it just seemed like it was about something dark. Just that title sounds dark. But as you listen to the lyrics, they're really so clear and not overly complex that it's about listening to a record.
Yeah, it's really not. And it's cool though, because it's him, I think, showing his love for music and kind of paying tribute to vinyl records. And it's one thing I've heard my dad say a lot. Like when he talks to, he's like, "Oh, I remember I got this record on this holiday. Man, I played it. I just played it and played it and played it." And it's just kind of funny because people do that, and it's like you play it over and over and over and over again. Whereas that kind of gets lost a little bit today.
Oh yeah.
I mean, now you can track, on Spotify, everybody's been posting lately, like what I listened to the most in 2020. And here's my top 5 this. And yeah, that's cool. I mean, it is cool that you can track some of that stuff and everything, but it's just like, wow. Yeah. I mean, I just think it just shows his appreciation really for music. So,
and I had heard that when the guitar riff was written, it was much slower. And that Vedder wanted to speed it up, which is awesome because it makes it a little more like punk-ish feeling to me, like more aggressive. And I had heard that, and I think I caught this in a YouTube video by True Rock and Roll Stories about, I think it's how Vitalogy nearly broke up Pearl Jam or something. But it was an interesting video. Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff in there. And he said that Mike McCready said that he struggled. He would struggle to play the riff like correctly live without, unless he was really warmed up and just like ripping it because it was so like feverish and hectic.
Yeah, I guess like kind of like you said, Gossard, he like wrote the riff, and then I guess Eddie Vedder had it on tape or something, and his tape machine could like speed it up, and he was like, "Oh, I want it that way." I was like, "Oh, that's a cool way, man."
It is
cool.
good. It's gotta be.
It is also the first single off the album too, which I found interesting. I didn't know that. I found that interesting when I found that out. I'm not sure if it's the one I would have picked. But it is.
I like it a lot. Yeah,
it's the first.
Yes, dude. Because the other singles off it, although great songs, I mean, two of my favorite Pearl Jam songs are the other singles off it. Not For You and Immortality, but they're both a little slower. I mean, Not For You speeds up and stuff, but I mean, Immortality is a slower song, and it's just.
I was gonna say You wouldn't want that to probably be the record company. Definitely wouldn't want that to be the first song or single off the album.
But anyways, so getting into it, Not For You.
Second single.
Always really love this song. Always have.
Yeah, and it's it's kind of again based on the music industry and how the youth is being sold and exploited, and it's kind of saying that the music is not for you, or it's not meant for you to use it in that way. I took it as like Not For You is like right to the suits and execs. Like it is not for you. It's for the people who really love and appreciate it and get something out of it other than money. The thing is, and let me play devil's advocate for a second. I feel like that's such a catch-22 because it's like, hey, you didn't have to sign the record contract. Right. Sure. Like, you want on one hand, you want your music to get out there for music for the masses, for all the people. Right. You want as many people to hear your music. At least I imagine you do. But it's kind of like to do that, you got to play the game. And so
I think that's what it's about, because now you don't hear about it as much, but I was watching a documentary on Prince and his fight with Warner Brothers, like, I don't remember it as much because we were younger, but seeing clips of it back, like that's when he became the symbol and did all this stuff and used to like berate Warner Brothers as a company in concerts and just shit on them like all the time, because his thing was, I get that you have to play the game, but you shouldn't own my intellectual property. Like these contracts that you write, everyone in the industry gets rich. And the artists, let's just say if they didn't go on tour, they wouldn't make any money. It's like pennies on the dollar. And then the record company owns your fucking master tapes. Like, I that would drive me fucking bananas. Like, I don't know how people, I guess it's just like the naivety, right, of an artist, like not knowing better. And you're like, well, sweet, this is it. This is like my way up there. But to think about what you give up, Yeah, I know it's again, you're dancing with the devil, man. You really are. Yeah. Well, and I think we'll get to a song a little later called Satan's Bed, or something to that effect, right? Which I feel like is very similar. Now, did you know though that the guitar that Mike McCready plays on this, Tom Petty gifted him the 12-string Rickenbacker 12-string.
Yeah. And it was like the first time he used it, and it was like a Christmas present. Like, dude, I don't know, that'd be pretty badass. It's like, Tom Petty just sent me this awesome guitar. I might as well just play it on this song we're recording. Like, okay. Well,
I think there's a lot of pictures and album covers with Tom Petty playing that Rick.
I'm sure.
Because that was a guitar that I think was kind of brought into prominence by George Harrison in the early Beatles days, was a 12-string Rickenbacker.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Tremor Christ.
Tremor Christ,
which I believe was
to spin the black circle. It was.
I like the song, but to me, I guess it wouldn't have been my choices. But again, what do I know? I don't know shit. But it's not. I guess it's not my favorite choice, even for a B-side. I like the song, but
it definitely it's very different than the first three. This song to me, it has a kind of like this dark, eerie feeling to it. I don't know. The rhythm is kind of strange.
Well, because the way it bounces, just kind of a
strange song.
It just, it's got that like driving rhythm all throughout the whole thing, which I don't feel like you hear from them.
Yeah, well, even Mike McCready said, I think he described it as an odd marching Beatles tune. No, I hear the I hear the marching. I'm not sure. I don't know where I would connect the Beatles part to it, but I definitely hear the marching for sure. Like I get that.
I bet if it was presented in a different way, it could. You know what I mean? But it's like they sound nothing. Eddie Vedder sounds nothing like the way that Lennon or McCartney or Harrison or even Richard Starkey sings.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Yeah, he's a unique vocalist, a very unique vocalist. All right. Speaking of Nothingman.
Yeah, slows down a little bit. I feel like it's their speaking of the Beatles, I feel like it's their answer to Nowhere Man.
Ah, I can see that.
No, I don't.
Yeah, Nothingman, Nowhere Man. I mean, hey, why not? Let's make that connection.
Yeah, it's just a little slower.
Yeah, I mean, the quote that I think.
So when we do songs of the same content,
year 27. All right.
Yeah.
The quote that I've seen pop up a few times when Eddie Vedder talks about describing the song, he basically says, if you love someone and they love you, don't fuck up. Like, because you're left with less than are left with less than nothing. And I can't disagree with that just from life experience sometimes. But, I think this is the one that he wrote in like an hour. And, he just said it just, I don't know, it just happened it really captured the mood. At least his vocals for it and everything. And
I do think there's good lyrics. I always liked the lyric where he said, "Caught a bolt of lightning and cursed the day he let it go." That's a good line. That's a really good line.
Yeah, that is. There are some really good lines in this song for sure, and it does it slows the album down, which is good because we've kind of been moving at pretty fast pace, for the first part of it. We got a little trippy with some Tremor Christ. Yeah. And then just, kind of slows it down a little bit. But then it doesn't take long before we kick it into high gear again with whipping. Right?
Now, dude, whoa. Now, what do you think of this? So you skip ahead to Satan's bed, and it sounds to me like in the beginning of Satan's bed, you got like a whip, like whoosh, whoosh.
I thought the same thing. I know.
How do you not put that on the beginning of whipping? Is it too literal? Is it too literal?
Maybe.
And I wonder where they got the whip because, dude, remember trying to get the goddamn whip crack for fucking pearls to swine?
Dude, I remember going to a sporting goods store and you like asking some dude to actually use a whip.
Well, it was a Western. Yeah. And it's funny because it sounded sweet. And then you take the tape back and it sounds like somebody snapping their fingers. And I was like, motherfucker. And I remember actually recording the sounds of us slapping 2x4s together to get it from a distance.
Yeah, that's a layered sound, definitely.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny because it makes you like hearing a sound like that and then knowing what it takes to get it makes you appreciate all the Foley work in the movies, dude. Like when guns shoot, they don't sound like where they're like, pew. they don't sound like that. But anyways, I digress.
You digress.
I feel like this is also about the record company shit.
Oh yeah, no, I think for sure. I mean,
I don't want to push when I'm being shoved.
Yeah, it's about, and it's kind of I think about like putting up with the people who have the control and having to take it, but they're still standing, right?
Yeah.
And they can't, for me, I can't say anything really stands out musically on the song. It's pretty much like a straight ahead, straightforward kind of rock song. The whole way through. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's a good song.
But I do like I think the words are good. I don't need a bandage. There's already too much blood or there's too much. It's pretty in your face.
Yeah, you can definitely. And I've found this once I started really looking into Eddie Vedder's words a little bit, man, there's a lot going on there. Maybe that you might not notice at first.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing that I will say is sometimes the way he puts it all together, it doesn't necessarily follow like the textbook patterns of how something would rhyme or where the thing, but I like it because it's different. And I feel like with his, you got to dig a little more. It might not be so obvious.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% in with you there, because I'd probably listen to this album a bunch of times, and I think a lot of words and songs and lyrics. It wasn't until I actually started researching the album and everything, I was like, oh wow, this is a lot about, fame and invasion of privacy and battling with the record companies and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, like, yeah, makes sense. I gotcha.
Well, think about how old we were when these came out. It was like, for me, I guess at that time, I liked the sound of it. And the same thing, like, think about, we already did Stone Temple Pilots' Purple. If I'm not mistaken, Meat Plow is about the media and all that stuff too. And looking back at the lyrics and listening to it now, it's plain as day, but...
Yeah, I didn't have a concept of what that stuff was and how the media controlled everything back then.
Yeah. So, anyways.
Well, we kind of mentioned privacy a little bit. So, song number 7. You mean
Pride 2?
Pride 2, yeah. Which is it's an interesting little sort of song. I don't really know how to fully kind of describe it. It's just a short little... I don't know, interlude, intro, to me, outro, break.
It's their Dig It.
Okay. Yeah.
It is to me, it's like their version of Dig It. That's how I hear it.
I can dig it.
Let it be.
Off Let It Be.
Not Dig It, the full version, the 8-minute in its entirety version, which is interesting.
Is pretty great.
Yeah, it is.
Dig a Pony. Yeah. Also, not the song either of us would scratch off that album. We know we're going overtime on that one.
Oh, God, dude. Yeah. Let's not even get into that. We'll bitch about it for an hour. Corduroy.
Yeah. So, yeah, Corduroy. Dude, this is one of my favorite songs on the album, man.
Yeah.
I love just the guitar intro, how it kind of fades, builds in slowly. And... I'd listened to this album, but where it actually stood out, I have this DVD of Pearl Jam, and it's called Imagine in Cornice, but basically it's about their tour that they did in Italy. I want to say in 2006. And
okay,
it's kind of a fly on the wall documentary-ish, where it just kind of follows them around on tour and everything. There's no like real sit down interviews, but there's this, and actually I believe they show some clips of it in the PJ20 documentary when they play Immortality. That's from this DVD.
Oh, okay.
In the PJ20. And so the image I have is, I think they started the show. It follows them, starting a live show, and it's like just pouring out, raining in the crowd. They all have their like slickers or and ponchos and stuff on, and you just see the rain coming down, and they're just on stage, and they just start with this song, and everybody goes crazy. It's a pretty just kind of like powerful scene. It's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, that is sweet. But I liked this because obviously the feud with like the let's just say the music business is a big theme here. But from what I understand, this is more about culture and just how like clothing companies like capitalized on the grunge look, and all of a sudden everyone's wanting to wear, like flannels and stuff. And these companies are selling them for insane amounts of money when it was like these guys bought them at the fucking Salvation Army.
Yeah. Well, that's what Eddie Vedder said. This song is about, he paid $12 for this brown like corduroy jacket, and then he saw it like a remake of it, somebody selling it for like $650, and just because that became like the in style. Dude, that is, it's so un-American, but also there's on General Hospital, there was like this character they modeled after him. He's like really good looking and long hair. It was
Ricky Martin.
It was fucking Ricky Martin, which is just hilarious in itself. But it's funny too, because one of the lines in this song is they can buy, but they can't put on my clothes. It's kind of like, you can try to imitate me, you can try to do all this, but I'm still me.
Sure.
I kind of dig that. So we get to number 9, a very interesting song. There's a few songs on this album that are interesting. I would love do you remember the first time you heard this and what you thought?
I do. I do, dude.
Does.
So if you're listening to the podcast, I doubt it, but if for some reason you are, shout out to Dusty Cletion, because I remember listening to Vitalogy with him at his house, and he put on Bugs, and I had not heard it yet. And of course, as a kid, you were like, what the fuck is happening? But now, dude, I really like this song because it you can appreciate the feeling behind it, and it captures just that utter moment of madness that one could or probably has gone through, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And part of me wondered is the Bugs is very, I think, symbolic for all the people and everything coming after him and coming in to his door. It's almost like he had you're going through this and maybe had a bad acid trip or something, and it's just it's all,
and it sounds like that,
all kind of imploding. But it's they're always taking over. See, they surround me. I see them deciding my fate. Yeah,
that which was once up to me. Oh, it's too late.
Oh, it's too late. It's so good, right? I know
the lyrics are so good.
It is. It's very, very fitting.
Do I join them? Looks like. That's the one.
Do I join them? And I think is he credited for playing the accordion on this one? I want to say,
and I guess he bought it at a pawn shop or a dime store or some shit.
Of course he did.
But I like it because it sounds like at the end, he either throws it down or he drops it or something. It's just it's very abrupt. And I had heard comparisons to this to Tom Waits, which makes absolute sense to me if you've ever listened to Tom Waits TD.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And it's a good precursor to Satan's Bed. Which I thought, with the whipping. But I thought this was interesting because the drum tech played drums on this.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Because what's his name? They already kicked him out, or no? I think he was in the hospital, or he had something happened. Abbruzzese, he was sick, and so they had him play on it, which is kind of interesting. And then eventually Jack Irons took over and toured with them for a while. He had been with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but the drum tech plays, and I think he's credited too. I forget.
Yeah,
what his name was, but good job, drum tech.
And don't hate us for that. I mean, there's just so much to remember. You can't possibly remember it all. Homework aside,
exactly. Oh, Jimmy Shoaf, drums on Satan's Bed. Shoaf, SHOAF. Okay. Anyways, dude, this song is starts with the whip. It's a really interesting song. I mean, it has it's got a strange feel and groove to it, but there's some transitions, and he's already in love. Yeah. Like that. I kind of like the way he sings that. I like that part.
Now I from a recording perspective, I've always liked the sound of a doubled guitar, but not taking one track and copying it in another ear.
It's no,
the way Pearl Jam does it, where they have two, sometimes three, but we're just going to talk about McCready and Gossard, right? Two, very good proficient guitarists, and they play. I like how they dance around playing the same thing, but they kind of don't. They stick on that riff, but then they kind of do other little things too, because you get that bit of it's doubled, but then it's not, and they each have their own riffs and their own things that they add to it. And to me, it makes for such a good sound.
Sure. I'm a big fan of doubling lots of stuff. I mean, I just love it. It's having that sort of little bit of a delayed stereo effect.
And in stereo.
It's very cool. In doubly. Yeah.
In doubly.
Well, then we move on to probably the song that most of all your average Pearl Jam fans would know, and I don't even think this was released technically as a single, although it charted and was a huge song
probably
for them.
More successful than any song on this album overall.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely, and that is the song "Better Man."
And it's a good song. It's not my favorite, but it is a good song. The lyrics again are really good, and they tell a story, and they paint a good picture.
Yeah, no, they do, and it's kind of funny because when when you start listening to, like, if you've heard the song like a million times on the radio, and then you start playing it on the album, a lot of time on the radio they cut out that little intro part.
I know, and I like the intro.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Because
but
to me, I'm like,
oh
man, this is going to be something cool. And you're like, oh, fuck, it's better, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It throws you off a little bit for sure. It really does. But
you're right, because they never play that. It always starts with the riff.
Yeah. But I guess he wrote this like when he was in high school. And he had performed it with his previous band. It's about kind of his mom, and I guess it's his dad, or I don't know if it's a stepdad or whatever, but it's more about his mom not being able to kind of like leave this guy, basically.
Yeah. Which is, it's horribly sad, but I mean,
when you listen to
I know, but at the same time, I think to myself, man, the guy has obviously had talent for writing his whole life, because my God, I mean, dude, you wrote that in high school? Well, shit. That's I guess though it's different because, you know, when you're kind of forced upon these life experiences that maybe you don't know how to react to, some of these things are probably brought out at a younger age.
Dude, stuff comes out for sure.
Yeah,
it definitely does.
Unfortunately,
well, and we talked a little bit about the this song and sort of the recording of it. You know, Brendan, they started messing around with it on the Versus sessions. They started playing it, and Brendan O'Brien was like, "Oh, like what's this? Oh, that's going to be great. It's going to be a hit." And they were like, "Okay, we're good. Nope, we're not doing it." Yeah. And then they were good. Then they were going to put it out as a part of this like Greenpeace benefit record where the band was going to play, but a different singer sings the song. And Brendan O'Brien was like, no, I basically can't let that happen. And so it's
kudos to him.
Yeah. So but like you said, they tried to record it like a few times, and he basically said he didn't want to fully admit it, but he's like, yeah, I may have tried to sabotage it a little bit because he knew what the song could be. Yeah. And dude, it is a great, it's a great song. It's just a great all around song. And I think there's a reason why it is, famous and popular. And what you could say is your average music Pearl Jam fan is like, oh yeah, like this is the one people know.
I would definitely say that, it is like a grunge era earworm.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to number 12. Now, I don't exactly know how to say this. Do you? How do you know how to?
Davanita? Yeah, that's
Davanita?
What it sounds like. That Davanita is what it sounds like they're saying when they say it, which is funny because in the liner notes here, this says the song without words. But it seems like they
kind of do have the words because they kind of do say that, but the Davanita, it's actually Zulu, and it means like she must be laughing. Well, they say she must be laughing her ass off about how she had us. And I'm sure in the album it says that there's like a poem that tells the story of a girl's life. I guess her
she
best
laid
and
alone.
Worst days. Yeah.
Yep, she laid alone during her best days as a work of art, reading naked on the bed. Spent some of her best days cleaning carpet from her hair. Spent her worst days owing you the pleasure of taking the blame. Interesting. Spent her whole life disbelieving in her worst fears. A work of art, a work of art. That's the poem in the liner notes.
Wow. I had no idea we were going to be in for a poetry reading tonight, but I'm really glad that
I didn't either. I feel like one of the beatniks, like kind of in the Ginsberg era.
Very Ginsberg-esque of you.
And there should be like some free jazz playing in the background. You know, a walking bass line would be nice.
Oh, interesting.
But anyways, I like this, and I think that it looks like Stephen Thomas Erlewine of All Music called this a mantra funk, this song, which I think is great because it is like a mantra, because that is all they say. Is that phrase throughout the song, but for some reason I never get bored of hearing it. I like when it comes up and it just kind of it's a constant loop.
It's a constant loop. It's not that long. I guess it's 3 minutes. Yeah, geez. Yeah, that's okay. All right.
But it's just I like the guitar parts in it. It's fun.
So much fun.
It's really fun. It's more fun than that poem. That poem is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, this is a bummer, man. This is a bummer.
And it's for the audience. It's not that I can't read. Like, this is some,
but it's like written in,
dude. It is
written in cursive,
small ass text. Well, it's typed, but it's like really small, and it looks like it's written on a crumpled up piece of paper. So that didn't help. But anyways,
all right. So
kid can't even read,
dude. I hated teaching. One of our favorite songs. I know this has been a staple for us on our mix CDs when we, people
Mellow
used to
mix.
make those back in the day. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Dude.
Immortality.
Dude. Third single off the album. It's awesome. Yep. There's so many things that can be really said about it. I know a lot of people have said that they think it's about Kurt Cobain and Kurt Cobain's suicide, and Vedder kind of denied all this, but he does kind of say that it's about the pressures on someone, who's on a parallel train. And I think there's probably a time where, Pearl Jam, I mean, dude, 10 and Nevermind came out within like a couple of weeks of each other. And these are two huge albums, and these bands were on parallel train tracks for the most part.
I saw that Cobain used to kind of talk shit about them earlier on, but then I guess that him and Eddie Vedder at some point had like connected and like spoke as people, and then I saw another clip of an interview where he seemed to say that he was a very nice guy, and I did see too a clip from a concert. I think it's on PJ20, where there's a clip that they were playing a concert like the day that he died, and they kind of, I don't remember if it was this song specifically, but they dedicated, they kind of like spoke about him a little bit and said that we wouldn't even be where we are if it wasn't, which is really. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of made it sound like we wouldn't be here, and you as fans probably wouldn't be here either. Yeah. Like without, Nirvana,
which is a really cool dedication.
So, yeah. But this song itself, I mean, the lyrics are very deep, very haunting, good imagery. It has like I don't know. I mean, it has a sad sort of melancholy feel, but I think of it more as like more of a deeper introspective song than being purely sad and like depressing. That's just not,
for me, I honestly feel like, and even musically, like an influence in Neil Young on this song. I don't know why. Okay. And I didn't read anything. I didn't hear anything to actually like back up that statement, but that's just kind of my take on it.
So there's actually a really cool scene. Again, I'm talking about this DVD and there is a part of it in the PJ20 documentary, but I think there's more footage in this DVD where it shows Eddie Vedder just doing like kind of like a sound check in Italy in like this huge empty Coliseum, and he's just playing Immortality and everything. It's pretty badass, man. I dig it. So
I saw that. I think that's on 22.
Yeah, part of it is. So, all right, we're gonna wrap this up, Grim.
Yeah.
With Hey Foxy, blah 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 blah.
Foxy Moth or Dilemma or Stupidmop.
or Stupidmop, aka Stupidmop.
Now this, the longest song on the album, really trippy, and I guess the speaking is like from interviews from psychiatric patients, but it's, if you ever listen to the words, it is kind of it's haunting, like it sounds. But dude, it's like this kid talking about how he would rather be like hit than hugged.
Yeah, it's
part of it is, and it's kind of disturbing.
It is very disturbing.
Jack Irons on drums.
It's weird.
The only one.
Dude, his only track on the album. I mean, can you imagine that? Like, dude, your Jack Irons are like, hey, we got all the other tracks done already by what is his name, Abbruzzese, but like. Here,
I think you're gonna like this one.
Yeah, can you just lay something down? You have full autonomy, right? Like,
well, and dude, this song would be complete. It would be like a Revolution 9 if it wasn't for his drum part, honestly, because that kind of at least moves it in some sort of trajectory.
Really tied the room together.
Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely an interesting song. It's the longest song on the album for sure. And it is a little twisted and weird. And that's why I just find this album really interesting, because there's some stuff that's really accessible, and then there's some strange things. And I don't know if I would say it's all over the place, but maybe it is all over the place.
Yeah, it kind of is.
For Pearl Jam, I guess it is. So,
yeah.
Well, I think we should probably get into the scratches here, my friend.
Oh, boy.
Run a little long in the tooth.
Yep.
All right. So, what you got for me?
Well, dude, we just covered it. I mean, hey, Foxy Mofin Delamanama, that's me, aka Stupidmop. I get it, but if Immortality was the last song in the album, you would be like, fuck, that was an awesome album. You wouldn't be like, God, I'm really missing this 8 minutes of psychiatric patients talking about getting beaten.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's time. We're going Islanders Capitals here today, buddy. So,
I kind of figured this was going to be an overtime scenario. I mean, had a feeling.
It was pretty obvious. I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
to me, it doesn't add anything to the album. I certainly am glad that it's last, because I think a lot of times I'm done with Immortality. Yep. Okay. Yeah.
See you later.
So it kind of scratches itself.
Well, then, dude, if we're in overtime, dude.
Right. What do you got? Go. You go.
Oh, me?
Yeah, I think so.
I'd skip Vedder Man almost every time.
Ooh.
And I'm sure I'll get lambasted for that one, but I'm sorry. Like,
is that because you've heard it? Is this one of those ones that's sort of a victim of radio play? Okay.
Partially. But I just like to me, I just think it's almost like too normal for the album. Even though it's got a darkness in the content and the lyrics, and it is a great song. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I could also just put on Rearview Mirror, Pearl Jam's Greatest Hits, and it would be on there as well.
There you go. You could definitely do that. So I would personally, I'd keep Better Man on there, but that's just me.
You're a better man than I.
Well, I doubt it. Depends on who you ask. I would go my scratch is going to be, it's probably more of an obvious one, but it's going to be Bugs, because
you son of a bitch.
I know because
I know it's weird.
One, because part of it is I don't listen to the last song, and I go from Corduroy to Satan's Bed. It's just, I have no problem skipping over that. It's cool to listen to and have it on every once in a while. Let's just say, if I'm across the room, I won't specifically get up to go to the next one. But I had a friend over the other night, and she was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Oh, this is a song on Pearl Jam." She was like, "Yeah, I don't like it." I was like, "Yeah, I have a feeling it's not for everyone." It's
that's when you say, "Well, I'm sorry, I got bugs in the way I feel about you."
But I got blisters on me fingers. All right.
Well, then that wraps it up.
Wraps it up, people. Awesome. Well, we hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. We hope you have a very, very Merry Christmas from the Dude.
Yeah, and I enjoyed spinning this black circle and really listening to this one again because I hadn't listened to it in a while.
Now I got to pay $65 for it, but hey.
Dude, I wanted to at the record store, but I'm like, God damn, cousin, I can get 2 albums for that.
That's right.
Anyways.
Absolutely. So, all right. Well, thank you for tuning in, everyone. We hope you have a very Merry Christmas. But now it is time to go. The Dude and Grim Show.
Scratch Your Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More. That's ... MORE and the Tims, TIMNZ. Copyright 2020. The Dude and Grim Show.
So you dig yourself a hole and set aside